Hey guys, how's it going? It's Michael here, and back for another video. This time is gonna be about getting out of survival mode. Yeah, getting out of survival mode. You might see a different title later on, but yeah, this is a topic related to my last video where I gave a life update of where I'm at. And so yeah, let's talk about this like survival mode kind of topic, right? So like, what is this survival mode? What does it do to you? And why should you try to get out of it? And what happens if you do get out of it? Okay, so what is this survival mode? Basically, the survival mode is kind of like a fight or flight kind of mode, you know, where you're on edge, your nervous system is activated and you're ready to run or fight to survive, right? It's the survival mode. You're activated, you're on, you're not resting, because resting means death. Okay, so not literally death in this modern context, but death could be replaced by, let's say, not being able to pay your rent, your bills, not being able to put food on the table, right? So these kind of problems are the modern day equivalent of like death, right? We're not gonna get eaten by tigers, you know, our cave is not gonna be invaded by another caveman or something like that, but we do have these modern day kind of fears of not surviving, right? So when you're in excuse me, when you're in like this kind of survival mode, you're kind of my image of it is like people working paycheck to paycheck. So meaning that most of their money, if not all of it, goes to their, you know, monthly living expenses. So food, rent, bills, plus whatever. And so basically, like, the point of living paycheck to paycheck is that you have to keep working, because if you stop working, you will not afford to survive, basically, right? You're not saving any money, in other words, right? So when you're in like this kind of survival mode, I would say that it's not really good for your mental well-being, because, you know, if you're constantly on all the time, you don't really have some room to, you know, slow down and relax, basically, right? Or another way to put it would be, you don't really have time for yourself in a deeper way where you can figure out what to do with your life, right? You don't have this deep reflective period to figure out how to improve your life or yourself or your circumstances, right? Because you're too busy surviving. So why is this bad? It's bad for your mental well-being, as I said. It's probably bad for your nervous system and your, you know, probably adrenal glands, or there's probably some biological negative effects of these kind of things, you know, as we all suspect. And on a deeper level, as I said, you can't figure out how to improve your life because you don't have a chance to rest. So, as I was saying in my previous video, it blows my mind that people spend all their money every month and they don't save anything because they're keeping themselves in this loop of survival, right? So what would be better, in my opinion, would be if for somebody to at least try and save a little bit. Try and save a little bit of your paycheck so that you can get out of this survival loop. And why? Why would you want to do that? Well, what if you lose your job? What if you lose your job and you need to survive without one? What are you gonna do? If you don't have any money saved up, you might need to borrow money, and that's gonna put you into debt. Excuse me. Then you're into the debt trap, which is another thing, right? It gets even worse. So, saving money is good to have as a backup. Gives you some time to recuperate and come up with a strategy of what to do next, right? And the more you save up, the longer that you have of this time to think and re-strategize, right? And one thing that can happen if you have, let's just say if you have 6 months saved up of survival expenses, let's call them. So 6 months without work, you're living off of your survival expenses. One of the things that might happen when you're in one of these phases is that your nervous system has kind of a chance to relax and not be in fight or flight, right? So now your nervous system has a chance to kind of relax a little bit, and now you can really think about what is the best next thing to do so that you're not in such a deep survival mode, right? And I think this is a thing that a lot of people are afraid of, actually, to be in this non-activated mode. I think that is just something that really scares people. And why is that? Well, it's because being on and activated, it means you're out there, you're doing stuff, you're not really thinking about problems in your life. It kind of distracts you from yourself and the feelings that you would have to face if you were by yourself and actually confronted with these problems, right? So the survival loop is kind of like this coping mechanism for avoiding yourself, I think. But why should you get out of this loop? Right? Why should you get out of this loop where you're fine avoiding your problems and you're surviving, you're grinding? Why should you get out of that? Well, once you actually gather up the courage to face your own problems, at first it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to realize that there's all these problems that you've been dealing with, and the weight of it is going to feel very heavy. But the thing that happens when you get through that is that you have a stronger sense of clarity of what you really want. And once you have that clarity, it gives you kind of this strength to not ever go back to the way things were before, right? Once you face these kind of things inside of you, it gives you like this kind of like inner resolve that you will never make yourself deal with those same problems again, right? So now with this inner resolve and this inner strength, you now slowly start to have some time to think about what you should do next. What is the next smartest thing to do? Work smart. Don't work hard, work smart, right? Or however the phrase is said. This is what basically happens when you get out of the survival loop. You start thinking smart, or you start working smart, not working hard, right? You find solutions, ways to strategize for the next best future for yourself, right? So once you implement these new strategies, then your life is gonna improve. Maybe you're gonna be making more money, which means you're gonna be able to save more, which means you don't need to try so hard to survive anymore, because you already have this backup money where you can just, you're gonna have time to chill and not stress and just relax. Let your stress dissolve away until you figure out the next thing to do, right? That's kind of like the treasure that you get from getting out of the survival loop is time, basically, right? You get time to think, time to breathe. So then the cycle repeats itself. Now you have a longer time to re-strategize the next time you are in one of those in-between phases, right? Figuring out your next steps in life. Now you have more time to think, right? So in my situation, I just came out of working from China for a couple of years, and I saved up, let's just say like if I wanted to take a year off of working, maybe 2 years, I could do that. I don't have to work right now. I have time to just, let solutions come to me rather than forcing myself onto the next quickest solution so I could survive. And what does that do for me? It lets me ride the wave of not knowing what to do next. It lets me ride the wave of confusion, self-doubt, whatever that comes up, because I know that I don't need to care that much. I can just chill, right? I can just chill. I can let myself go through these storms without worrying, because I don't need to survive. I've already done it. I'm not thinking about survival anymore. I'm thinking about what is gonna give me something greater than what I had before, right? What is gonna allow me to not have to grind so much? What is gonna allow me to, enjoy my life more, and instead of grinding, I can focus on enjoyment and, bringing this sense of like security and enjoyment of life. How can I keep this feeling and bring it to situations and to benefit other people? How do I let other people enjoy the vibe that I'm already in? How do I don't know if it makes sense, but basically I'm not thinking about survival anymore. I'm not stressed. I'm relaxed, and I can be happy with other people. This is the reward you get from getting out of the survival loop. Okay, and it all begins with facing your own shit, basically. You know, so just save up some money. Stop spending everything on stupid things that you don't need. Just save it so you can give yourself a little breathing room. Don't be a pussy, as I said before. Face yourself. You know, you're not gonna die from sitting with yourself. You know, it can be pretty dark, but you're never alone. You've always got people. Even if you're alone, even if you think you're completely alone and you're in this really dark place where you're faced to be with yourself, when you're in like the pit and the core of that darkness, you will find that you're actually not alone. You're actually just being present with yourself, and there are other people around you. Maybe your upstairs neighbors, maybe some person in another room who are already present there with you. They're already with you, and they are not in darkness. They have already experienced that darkness that you're feeling in that moment, and that is just where they are. It doesn't bother them. They're just there with you, and that brings a sense of like peace and safety when you're in your darkest times. Okay, so just know that you're never alone. No matter how dark of a thing you're going through, there's always somebody who has experienced the same struggles, right? So basically what I'm saying is, you know, don't be afraid to face your own things. Don't be afraid to don't think that you cannot get yourself out of survival loop if you're in one. Don't think you can't get yourself out of it. You just need to think a little bit, strategize a little bit, you know, and see where it takes you. So yeah, that's video's getting long again, so I think I'll end it here. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and see you guys in the next video.